today on the webinar. And let me take a moment to, welcome the speakers for today. We have about 6 leaders from Cognizant who are practicing data architects. Let me do a very quick welcome. Abhishek Singh, who's an enterprise data strategy specialist with more than close to about 20 years of experience across aspects that include data modernization, governance, and cloud migration. Rajiv, who's a principal architect again at Cognizant, and who comes with a lot of experience setting up modern data stacks and establishing the culture of data-driven decision making in his entire 20 plus years of journey in tech consulting, and project delivery in the data analytics space. Welcome, Rajiv. Pankaj, who works as data science and AI lead, again, with more than 15 years of diverse industry experience, delivering high impact business transformations through data science and AI delivery roles. And we have Srinath, who's a chief architect, seasoned professional with more than 21 years of experience, and brings in hands-on expertise in design and architecture, specializes in emerging and NoSQL databases as well as cloud architecture. Currently, he serves as the emerging database community lead. And we also have Ramya and Indrajit with them. Ramya, again, is a principal architect at Cognizant, 20 plus years of experience, seasoned solution architect, specializing in data engineering and solutioning in hyperscalers. And Ramya continues to work with different customers across industries, handling their data modernization journey. And we also have Indrajit Sengupta, again, principal architect, has over 20 years of expertise in data and analytics, and specializing in data engineering and hyperscalers again, works closely with many product vendors to add value to the customer tech landscape. And with these 6 wonderful, experienced professionals, we have 2 experienced, seasoned moderators who are going to be driving this webinar in the form of a panel discussion with 2 specific rounds. And a very, very warm welcome to Anand and Arun Prasad. Anand, again, with more than 20 years of experience in data analytics space, very versatile across data strategy, modernization, and designing resilient data architectures. Anand brings deep expertise in building and executing modern data solutions, both on cloud and on-prem. Currently, he serves as a leader of the enterprise architecture community at Cognizant. And we have Arun Prasad, who's really the architect of this webinar. And he's a senior mentor and consultant at StackRoot. RNP brings with him close to 40 years of experience on analytics, product management, and various facets of technology. He holds several patents in the areas of data architecture and product architectures. He is a TED speaker. He writes very frequently for TDWI San Diego, USA, speaks across in conferences. He is also an advisory board member of Enterprise Digital Transformation and many business platform companies. He has held leadership roles at Infosys and Wipro prior to joining StackRoot. So a very, very warm welcome to all these seasoned leaders, and absolutely thrilled that StackRoot is hosting this webinar today. And for those of you who are an integral part of StackRoot's digital architecture community, a great welcome again to all of you for joining yet another webinar in our series that we have been hosting every month. Every year, as you all know, we host a digital architect conclave that brings together 150 plus architects across 40 plus organizations each year, and we host it in Bangalore. Please do stay tuned for further updates on our digital architect conclave. If you are signed up to you're subscribed to our series, you will be getting notifications, not just on these webinars, but also on the upcoming digital architect conclave that is going to be held in July 2025. Coming back to this webinar, again, absolutely thrilled to kick off this 90-minute session today to really talk about the data tech stacks that support end-to-end workflows from data ingestion, processing to observability, governance, personalization, and AI-powered automation. I think whether it is about a retail leveraging AI-driven analytics platform, or seamlessly integrating its legacy data systems with modern AI-powered decision engines, or a banking sector that has really been in the spotlight for their ambitious investments in AI-powered data architectures. I think the point is to really see how these breakthroughs are reshaping how data is leveraged for real-time insights, setting a new standard for operational efficiency and customer engagement. And to me, I think this really underscores the transformative impact of data tech stacks that really bridge traditional infrastructure with cutting edge AI agents today. Now, 8 to 10 weeks ago, when I sat with Prasad, we discussed about this webinar, we coined this whole title. We had put emerging data tech stacks from infrastructure to agentic AI. But today, 10 weeks later, I really think it is neither emerging nor a trend. It is really a pivotal shift. If I were to rephrase the title today, I would probably rephrase it a little differently, because in 8 to 10 weeks, that is a shift that I see. So it is neither emerging nor a trend. It is really, we are going to talk about the shift that is happening today that is really redefining the competitive landscape. So to me, there are about 4 or 5 things, very key things that we are going to be talking about in this webinar today. How enterprises are strategically leveraging data-led initiatives to accelerate growth, the potential risks that I see, in a misaligned data tech stack, and the role of modern data architectures in really overcoming these many challenges that we see, in delivering actionable insights. And finally, how personalization and AI-augmented decisions really empower stakeholders with context-aware, real-time insights. So I think that is really, the takeaways that I see from today's webinar. And to me, today's session is just not going to be about an exploration of emerging technologies, but really for all the audience today, I consider this as an invitation to all of us to reimagine how each of our organizations and each of us can harness data as a transformative force. So we are really here to challenge conventional thinking, share best practices, hear from leaders, and look at how new approaches that we can bring in to these data tech stacks. Happy once again to see a great response, and please do stay back, engage, and we have 2 rounds. We have this webinar in the form of 2 panels. The first round moderated by Prasad, and the second round will be moderated by Anand. And we also have a very senior leader, Raja from Cognizant, who's going to be summarizing and giving his insights at the end of the webinar. And we also have a Q&A round that will be opened up at the end of these 2 rounds. Thanks once again. Pleasure on behalf of StackRoot to be hosting these wonderful series.
RMP sir, we are unable to hear you.
You are speaking.
Yeah.
Yes. No.
Yeah. Now we can. Yes.
I am audible. Okay. Thank you. Screen is also visible, right?
Yes.
Yes, sir.
Thanks. Good afternoon, and a very warm welcome to each one of you who have shown a lot of interest. Today it's a very privileged moment for me to really be with people who have really transformed many organizations around the world. Everything centered around data. So, as Dr. Priya introduced, this whole idea of data has been very passionate to us, even though we have done enterprise architecture conclaves. Many times the focus has gravitated towards data. And because this is something which no enterprise in the world has ever thrown or rejected, it is always preserved and in a precious manner. And it has evolved to such a level today that we can definitely say that we are at an inflection point where everything that we do, we have a choice to make it and do it in a different way. So all of us have heard very clearly that around the world, almost every enterprise in any business, whether it is retail or utility or banking, insurance, anything that we take, from several years, they have been embracing digital technology. I'm sure that this essentially means that they're putting money on the table. So, leveraging digital technology for business growth or innovation or being a leader in their own segment is a strategic imperative for any enterprise in the world, no matter how small, how big they are. So, this leads us to the very important question as to why enterprises are investing. So the answer is very clear. It starts with turning data into decisions. This is where we are going to begin the journey. And when executives across different functions are able to make right decisions and product or service innovations happen, and the organization becomes resilient, and you can see exponential growth. So this is exactly what people have been expecting around the world. And this is the digital transformation, which helps organization to turn data into business growth and sustainable business growth as well. And most organizations who have invested money in this area have very clearly seen improved productivity, significant productivity improved, reduction in the cost of their operations. We are in digital age and we specifically focus on digital experiences. People are able to acquire new customers and of all generations. We have 5 generations of people around working or associated with technology. Everybody is getting a new kind of experience, and enterprises experience business agility, and of course there is more money coming in, and profitability as well. So we see a lot of initiatives like hyper personalization, which is all to do with, again, personalization of the experience. Data is the asset. It was all called as asset, but today it can be encashed. It is possible to make money on data, and we have seen many cases already. Organizations are attempting to automate the compliance because they don't want to be seen in the world as somebody who missed something as part of their operations, and that was noticed, and it can ruin the reputation of the organization. So they want to be extraordinarily careful, because they are operating around the world and they would like to see that this process is automated. And of course, AI powered decision intelligence at all levels in the enterprise. So, but the interesting part, or the I would say the part that requires attention, is that all these data-led initiatives are only as strong as the data value chain and the data infrastructure that fuels it. So if we have a weak infrastructure and a weak value chain, so will be the results. And if you have a stronger value chain and a stronger infrastructure, it will continue to give us better and better results. And so obviously, most enterprises are considering or also already doing a data infrastructure refresh as if it were, and trying to see the value. So in all these things, data and the initiatives and the infrastructure, they are inextricably intertwined. They are highly intertwined. You cannot deliver wonderful results with bad infrastructure of data, which is today in the form of a multiple layers, like a stack. So that's why we also looked at it like a data stack, or the technologies that are required in order to harness the power of data. So here we would like to give a simple definition before I really invite my panelists to talk about that. What do we mean by data stack? In fact, there are so many definitions, is running to several pages also sometimes. So I have tried to make it as simple as possible. Typically, in the current context, it is cloud native. It is highly scalable. It can become planet scale. It is AI powered, and it integrates data and it can ingest data from any variety of source from anywhere. It can process data at hyper speeds. It can store data in the memory for temporarily or in store persistence devices. It can deliver variety of analytics and also activate the decisions that are required automatically. It is designed for agility. It uses automation. It eliminates data silos. It accelerates insights, as well as it has to turn data into competitive advantage with speed and precision. If our infrastructure can do all these things, then only we call it as a modern data stack. I'll give an example to see this, how it can be evolved. I'm just taking an example of a car. So we have a stack of tires, which really is the essential part to move. That's what we call the rubber meets the road. Then you have the engines of the car, which is the one that gives you the power to take. Here we can equate it to recommendation engine, anomaly detection engine, rule engine, all kinds of things. We have been able to use these terms very frequently in our own profession. Here is a stack of batteries. We are already in the EV age, electric vehicle age, and battery plays a very crucial role. And if you put all those things on a platform, the car platform, along with all the other doors and every other fitting, so you get a stack of cars. And each one is of an increasing value, and each one is of a higher order convenience and comfort for us to provide convenience in terms of our usage. So like the modern data stack, every component, it does its own job very well, has a relevance, and it is there in its place by design. So this purpose of this panel for the next 30 minutes approximately will focus on data-led initiatives and the role of modern data stack from different perspectives with examples. I'm going to start the first conversation with Abhishek. He has been already introduced. So Abhishek, we always hear that the enterprises are investing a lot of money for data initiatives. What are these data initiatives? What do they deliver? What is the business purpose of these initiatives? And how data infrastructure has a strong connection to this? We would like to hear your insights, from the purpose of connecting the business purpose to the infrastructure.
Sure.
Abhishek, over to you.
Yeah. Thank you, sir, and a very good afternoon to all the participants on the call, right? So essentially, when we talk about the business purpose of data, right, as you have already touched upon, right, it's nothing but making decisions through an insights. And now what we have seen over the period, right, is that organizations are essentially channeling their investment into this data-led initiatives. While what is this data-led initiatives really, we talk about it, right? And it takes a variety of shapes and forms across different organizations, right? When we talk about, let's say, a retail industry, right, this data initiative could be anything in terms of acquiring new customer or selling a additional product by understanding a consumer behavior. If you talk about this in terms of let's say a logistics or a transportation company, then it could be anything in terms of bringing a cost efficiency or a process improvement through, let's say, a fleet utilization or a route optimization. Now, if I go back to a life science as an industry, right? Now, this data-led initiatives could bring you a competitive advantage, right? In terms of it would reduce the time to market your product. And what we are seeing is that organizations are increasingly investing in all these data-led initiatives. And what is supporting that is the modern stack that is out there. Now, if I really take a step back, right? How from a business per se this would look like? Let's say a retail marketing manager, right? If he wants to devise a marketing campaign, we take let's say a recent example of Puma, where they temporarily rebranded their name as from PUMA to PVMA. Now, what was the whole purpose of that? They wanted to capture the the burgeoning Indian badminton industry, right? Now we have all seen the influx of like how there is a greater, I would say, focus on the badminton with all those new players coming through. And Puma wanted to establish their brand in that industry. Now, what with the PV Sindhu as their brand ambassador, right? Now you connect the dots. PUMA becomes PVMA, and now this was just a temporary naming, but like it gathers the attention. Why Puma came onto this one, right? And for that, if you really look at it, to arrive on this particular decision, right? What they would have done is that they would have collated that the behaviors across different sources in multiple formats. Okay. Now this data that coming from a different sources or the multiple formats would have then aggregated, standardized using a different variety of business and the data quality rules before it gets stored for an analysis. Now, once this data got stored, there are different algorithms would have been run through it. And from there, this inference was made that, oh, okay, for us to make an impression in an Indian badminton industry, okay, PV Sandhu is the person with a lot of brand recall. If we do this thing, people would be essentially would focus on what's happening and that's where they came up to this okay rebranding stage, or I would say the temporary naming of their as PVMA. Now, how they would made this possible? It's just like the underlying data infrastructure or the modern tech stack that is supporting that. Because without that, this wouldn't have been possible for them to do that. Okay, so essentially, if I would say that any of these initiatives, the success lies in the investment that is what the organizations are nowadays doing around the modern tech stack. But a notable point, right, that I would again try to bring forward is that a recent Gartner service, what it talks about is that while the organizations are making up investments around the data-led initiatives, only 48% of them are realizing the desired business value or the outcome or exceeding that. What's happening to the other 52%? They are making the right investments, but they are not able to realize those. And some of the reasons for that, where while they are not able to realize those outcome, is that a lack of data trust. Now, this could come because of you have an incomplete data inconsistency in the data from a poor integration. Another aspect that is leading towards is the lack of data literacy, which results in the poor understanding and the definition of a data across the organization. Last but not the least is the resistance to change. Okay, now we all know that always when you talk about a change, you would encounter a resistance. And here what I would say that the success also depends upon is not only to do a best of investments across, but we should also be open to make certain architecture trade-offs, because what it does is that it increases your greater business adoption, right? So in a nutshell, I would say that while organizations are investing very well in all this modern stack, but the success also relies in the nimbleness of this, how this modern tech stacks are there for ready for a business adoption. Yep. Thank you.
Yeah, thanks. This was a very interesting example where you have seen, I think all of us are very familiar with this, and how it really made a very big difference in terms of people thinking that somebody made a spelling mistake, but it was intentional. So that was very nice to know. Next, I'm going to request Rajiv to talk about the next thing which we heard in some tone, that culture is a very critical contributor in making these data initiatives successful. And if this culture also, building this culture also has got a very strong relationship with the modern data stack. So Rajiv, we want you to share your experiences and help us to understand what is decision culture, decision-making culture, or data-driven decision-making culture, and how will the modern data stack contribute to accelerate the process of embracing the data-driven decision culture in enterprises? Over to you, Rajiv.
Thank you, RNP, and a very good afternoon to everybody. To paraphrase your question, what I understand is that how modern data stack helps to address the challenges in building a data-driven decision-making culture. To answer this, I would like to touch upon a few points. One, what do we mean by a data-driven culture? Two, what drives a data-driven culture? Three, what are some of the challenges in establishing a data-driven culture? How an emerging data stack can address these challenges. And then we will try to understand this with an example. So let's take them one by one. So what do we mean by data-driven culture? Data-driven culture is an organizational environment where decisions are made based on data analysis and insights, not intuition or gut feeling. Data-driven culture results in better decisions, improved performance, increased agility, which gives an organization a competitive edge. So if we take a look at the second part, how can organizations establish this data-driven culture? One of the important things is leadership buy-in. It should start from the top. Leaders should lead by example. They should champion the use of data and serve as role model for data-driven behavior. Second would be accessibility of data. Data should be readily available, easy to understand for everyone. Data literacy. Employees should have the skills to interpret and use the data effectively. Then having the right tools and technologies should be in place to collect, analyze, and visualize the data. There should be defined process for using data in decision making. And then continuous learning. Organizations should learn from their data and evolve. So then what are some of the hurdles that can prevent organizations from becoming truly data-driven? Data silos. Usually we see that information is scattered across different systems, making it hard to get a unified view. Lack of access. Data is locked away in IT department or complex systems, inaccessible to most employees. Insufficient skills. Employees lack the data literacy to understand and interpret the data. Resistance to change. People are comfortable with existing ways of doing things and resist new data-driven approaches. Poor data quality. Inaccurate or inconsistent data leads to unreliable insights. Lack of trust in data. If data is perceived to be unreliable, biased, or insecure, people may lose the trust in data. So how can an emerging data stack address these challenges? Emerging data stack breaks down the data silos by consolidating data from the various sources into a single repository by building a centralized data lake. It can help streamline data ingestion and transformation process by setting up automated data pipelines. It empowers employees to access and analyze data independently, leveraging self-service analytics tools. Emerging data stack infrastructure focuses on setting up accessible, scalable, reliable infrastructure, which enables faster insight and democratizes the data access. AI insights can help analyze and interpret the data, enabling informed decision making and fostering data-centric mindset. So, and emerging data stack implementation also focuses on training and enablement on tools, showcasing success story, demonstrating value of data programs. This helps to foster data literacy. It ensures data quality, consistency, security, trustworthiness by establishing data governance and quality frameworks. So now let's try to understand how this emerging data stack can help in data-driven decision making by using an example. So we have this scenario. A marketing team wants to improve the effectiveness of their email campaigns. So the challenge here is the data is siloed in different systems. The team relies on gut feelings and anecdotal evidence to make decisions about campaign targeting and messaging. So how can the data stack help out here? So an emerging data stack will help in data integration. It will help extract the data from the various sources, the CRM system, the website analytics, log platform, the marketing automation platform, and load all this data into a data lake. It will build a customer data platform to get a 360 view of the customer data. Data transformation tools can clean and transform the data as per the business rules and requirements. And setting up self-service analytics, this can be leveraged to create dashboards that show customer segmentation, campaign performance metrics, website engagement. So the outcome of leveraging this emerging data solutions would definitely make it a more effective marketing campaign. So to conclude, what I would say is that establishing a data-driven culture and building an emerging data stack are intrinsically linked. One cannot succeed without the other.
Thank you, Rajiv. It was very important, interesting connection to establish the connection of even a culture that drives human-centric behaviors and the infrastructure which will help them to feel that they have access to the data and they are encouraged to analyze data and come up with decisions that are based on facts rather than gut feels. Thanks a lot, Rajiv. Then audience must be wondering that always the topic of the season is AI and why we have not started with that, but we wanted to keep it at the right moment. So we have Pankaj, who is really going to help us to understand how the new developments in AI augmented decisions and the developments in the entire sphere of AI is helping organizations to build a new term, which is we are calling it as decision intelligence, where not the culture is conducive, the initiatives are there, but now you can do the same initiatives better, faster, and cheaper. So Pankaj, tell us about the evolution of decision intelligence and how AI and augmented decisions will help us to make the best use of the infrastructure, the tools, techniques, people, and everything to make a magic out of data. Over to you.
Thank you so much. Good afternoon, everyone. Thanks for giving me that such a wonderful opportunity to talk more about those more close to my heart, which is like a decision intelligence as a topic. Of course, everyone is talking about, like Abhishek has already covered about why the quality of the data is very, very important. The use of the data-driven decision making, some the proactive data quality, quality check on time to time, identify the relevant data. The basic concept about the data, but where the problem is we started. Whenever anything we wanted to start it, like AI problem statement, it should be started with the business problem. So when I'm talking about very 4 key steps, I just wanted to mention it, like identify the business problem, try to convert that business problem into the AI analytical problem, and that convert that analytical problem, whatever you are if you are the researchers, right? So collect all the 360-degree of the data towards my problem statement. So I am again revisiting my problem, so you won't be diverted, and looking at all the data which is unbiasedly towards my problem, which is like might be the structured data, unstructured data, when I'm talking about like time series, images, text data, whatever the users require, right? So now we do have the beautiful steps in terms of the go more deep down on like a descriptive, predictive, prescriptive, which I'm going to cover it. So identify the best model using like a multiple hypothesis, goodness of fit, and other things. So that is the analytical model, right? So how I can convert that analytical model or AI model to be business friendly, so the business language, to convert that AI solution becoming the business solution. That is a very, very main important step. So where we have feel that most of the problem statement has been going to stuck because of this only. So so that we can align what was my problem statement, what was my, in terms of the BVR, which is the business value realization, should be calculated. So when I'm talking about the business value realization, right, either everyone know about, we are always looking for the dollars, how I can get the more, saving the more and more dollars from the AI solutions. But when the particular use case I like to take it is the non-tangible benefit, which is the safety is the key importance. When I'm talking about the multiple talks in Industry 4.0, specifically the smart manufacturing, smart infrastructures and everything, right? So getting data from a lot of resources. So this particular example is I have picked, where the safety is a key importance. With relevance to that, just to imagine the very sad incident happened in the Odisha in 2023, where we lost around 400 people only because of the car, the train accident. And the scenario was one particular equipment was not work on that particular time, which is the signaling equipment, very small equipment, but you just think about how it is important, right? And multiple incident has been happening in the world, like a Singapore Rail and other also. So we can have that all the data when I'm talking about the IoT data, IIoT data, imaginary data, weather data, all those data, the beautifully you can analyze and through the AI techniques and, build the multiple models, which is the earlier talk about Prasad sir, early event detection model. The very simple model, but can be predict little bit early to 4 to 5 days early. You can have that model to give the this machine is going to be failure, or then you can take any corrective or preventive actions against that. So that particular solution will be useful for the engineer to fix that fix that particular problem very quickly, and make your machine more healthier, right? So multiple models are available, multiple tools are available. Talking about the Azure ML Ops is one of the key examples. It's very nice pipelines has been already available. So through the Databricks can we build it. The different examples when I'm talking about the like a logistic manager can be route optimizations, or the marketing team would be like to identify or probably predict their churn customers little early, very quickly on the fly. So like e-commerce is everyone using Amazon or all those things. So how this product recommendation is coming from that. So GenAI, right? GenAI is a more hot topic nowadays, using the different buzzwords and other things. Request you to go on the next slide, please. Yeah. Yeah. So when I'm talking about the AI maturity curve, like in x-axis, you can see the levels and the values on a y-axis. So it started with the data. I'm assuming that I have a data in place, all the quality data and everything. So what is my questions? What is happening? My question started from what is my happening, which is like a descriptive analytics. I'm getting the question. Now more and more I'm going deep down. The next question is why it is happening. So now I'm looking at the sale. So why my sale is increases. So why questions will become. The next question will be the predictive. So might be the promotion and other data will becomes in the picture. So more and more complexity, or more, not more than complexity, more curiosity has been building, more storytelling has been need to be built. Started from the data, information, hypothesis, decision, self-learning, and we can of course, like I was talking about like a descriptive, predictive, prescriptive optimization, AI, GenAI, all those things, right? So started with the reporting analytics, the advanced analytics. Now it's like AI and GenAI. The tools we do have beautiful tool already. We do have in terms of the specifically the reporting, Tableau, Power BI, Excel dashboards, the Python and other the open source world. We have the machine learning tool, decision and data science tools and techniques. We can leverage it that. And now, as I said, everyone is talking about the GenAI, where we can generate the text, images, video, audio, computer codes. Even though the how okay, but basic funda is very important. Try to understand, like even though all those buzzwords are coming, but the main idea to identify the pattern recognition from the data, so that I can give you more close to my objective. It is like might be will be help to business to take the decision very fast. Next slide. So though it is not a small thing, the laundry list in terms of the tools, techniques for this, the data science and machine learning things, specifically the different data sets, which are the different techniques, specifically when I'm talking about the deep learning, which is close to the GenAI problem statements, and when I'm talking about the tools and tech stacks, the tech stacks is very important. So in the open world, specifically all the big players like the Google or Microsoft has a beautiful pipelines in terms of the building those all the data science tools or tools and techniques in the through my final outcome become the either is my dashboard or is my Streamlit or is it my React, whatever the business wanted to be like that. So just to close these things, I would like to conclude in a way where we should the AI is like though it is like a hungry for the data, right? But the kind of a data we should have it, that is very important. So if the data has some issues, right, so how it will be misleading to the entire things. So data is the nutrition for the any AI intelligence. If an AI eats the junk food, it's not going to be perform very well. So hence having the quality data makes AI more and more intelligence. That's closing things I wanted to add over here at the end. So
Pankaj, thank you very much. And also, it looks like from your explanation that as all these things have evolved, we are also trying to take more and more complex problems to solve. And the data associated from several domains. So it is definitely becoming more cross-domain, and all the 5 V's of big data, as well as the complicated data science analysis possibilities, it can make the solution also more interesting and the problem also more complex. What do you say for that?
absolutely. The main objective to solve the business problem.
That's correct. Yes. So we are able to take much larger business problems and say that, I was reminded of a very similar thing. I believe that in the healthcare area as well, it takes almost about nearly 20 days for any infection to reach its peak level in a neonatal ward. Today, they are already using monitoring devices and algorithms where it can sense or detect the onset of an infection for a small child as small as 5 to 6 days. So you have a good gap of between 7 days to 20 days to control that, rather than you start reactively after 20 days and potentially there could be more complications because of that. So the kind of uh, places where AI is used has no bounds. And obviously, the problems that we are dealing with also are equally complex and interesting. And of course, they are real world problems. Thanks a lot, Pankaj. Really appreciate your wonderful explanation. So now I would like to just say that, conclude with the last part, that is, while all this data stack is evolving, we are also seeing the other important evolution as data products. So the decentralization of the authority, who will own the data, ownership of the data, and what kind of products they can publish, exactly like it comes from different things, also requires the stack. And so from all sources, you can really look at the specific domain of data, then use the metadata, integration, analytics, business canonical forms, semantics, convert that into services, observability, governance, and secure the products and ultimately deliver to consumers. And that also will really help them in terms of data literacy as well. So this data stack is not only addressing the requirements of solving today's problems, as it can also really become the platform for solving the future problems. So we really want to conclude this particular panel by saying modern data stack really matters. And across the 3 speakers, we have seen these 6 important things. Strategic data-led initiatives and transformations are fueled by data. Modern data stacks help align data capabilities with the transformation outcomes. Data literacy and culture are key influences of data-led transformation. And modern data tax again helps to build the data literacy and culture positivity. Then leaders need to check the AI readiness of data before embracing complex AI initiatives. Personalization and AI augmented decision making will fuel innovation, resilience, and growth. That's where we started. So with all this, I would like to sincerely thank Abhishek, Rajiv, and Pankaj, and hand over to the next moderator, Anand.
Sure, sir. Hello, everyone. Let me just share the screen. Hello, everyone. Okay. Hello, everyone. Good afternoon, good morning, good evening, wherever you are joining in. Thank you for joining in and spending a time on discussing about modern data stack. So I'm really thankful for panel one, RNP sir, and other colleagues who have been sharing their thoughts on about how business is looking at the data, how they are finding a various use cases, how they are looking forward in AI serving their different business challenges. Like the challenges looks like a very small one, or maybe the problems look like a small one, but sometimes when the problem occurs, like what Pankaj has mentioned, it could make a disaster kind of a thing. So it is all more important, the way the data led initiatives are driven by business. The backbone of that is a data platform. A data platform is which is very resilient, which supports all the business use cases and agile. Now, when I say, as RNP sir mentioned, when the rubber hits the road, the car has to sail through it. But during the making of car, we need to ensure that the car is made in such a way that when it hits the road, it just sail through it. Okay, and that is where the modern data platform building comes in. When we talk about a modern data platform, before that, I think the data ecosystem plays an overall role. What we discuss about, how the data is been utilized by business on a various cases. The other side is the building of that data platform. So starting from, inception of a data from a various applications where the data is generated, that has been translated into the platform, and then, eventually is been, delivered to the business to take decisions. So now we understand what business is looking forward from the data. But when it comes to building a data platform, what are all the key peripherals? So I mean, there are many building blocks when we are considering to build an very modern data platform using an emerging data stack. But like it could be a data storage, data processing, data governance, infrastructure, many more things are there. Focusing on today's session, we'll talk about three key pillars out of it. It does not mean others are not key, but it is something like, today we want to focus about these three key pillars. So we talk about data storage, how the storage infrastructure is evolving with, as RNP sir mentioned, that day by day, it's not only about data is getting evolved, various type of data is coming, that is getting in. Along with that, the use cases, what business having from data, the expectation of business having from data or data led insight is going raising bar day by day. Okay, so it's not only about decision maker, but decision enabler. Everyone needs an data which is through which they should be able to take some actionable insight. Okay, so gone are the days like when the data will be just served as in some sort of a report or Excel sheet or some BI or MI kind of a thing. So that's where we will start how this building that modern data ecosystem, key pillars of storage, processing, and AI is playing a role here. So then I'll start with the first panel. Okay, I'll start with the first subject about the storage, how the storage is getting involved. In my opinion, storage is a backbone of any data platform, though this is not visible. There are many things in the solution which is not visible, but play a critical role. If you look at storage is a platform which is not clearly visible to business who is using the data, how the data is stored. But if that storage is an incorrect one or it is not matching to the use case, there are challenges around that. And that's where I would like to invite Srinath, who is our seasoned expert on emerging databases. So Srinath, would you like to share, what are all the various evolution around data storage, to make our platform ready, AI ready? Okay, and how do you see, these patterns are, benefiting business? Srinath, over to you.
Yeah, thanks, Anand. Hello all. Good afternoon to fellow architects. Anand, thanks for asking these questions. So data storage is often very less discussed. People talk about only Gen AI models, right? But they don't talk about data storage technology. But in my opinion, it's one of the backbone of the AI revolution, as you rightly pointed out. And without suitable data storage solution, any organization will struggle to build their AI applications. So I would say data storage is the unsung hero of the AI revolution. Let's talk about it. Okay. So first we'll start with the evolution of data storage pattern, how it got evolved over years. So earlier, there were only few options to store the enterprise data. Okay, so first it started with the file system. It has its own problem. You cannot make query. Then it came hierarchical database in 70s. And then 80s, a breakthrough came, which is relational DB, where we can store the data in tabular formats and we can run very efficient queries. But that was not good enough for scaling to support Web 2.0 data needs. Then in 2000s onwards, NoSQL DBs came into existence. They are very scalable, horizontally scalable, but they didn't support ACID transaction initially, right? Of course, now all of them, most of them supports ACID transaction, but initially it didn't. And also it's purpose built and use case driven. There are multiple type of NoSQL DBs, like document based, where you can store only JSON, XML, all those kind of data. There are graphs, there are key value pairs. There's so many, but it has to be use case driven. One database cannot be used for other use cases. That was, I won't say it's a problem, but yeah, it makes architecture a bit complex. Then in 2020s, we saw the rise of lakehouse, data lake kind of architecture, where organization brought their all kind of data into a cheap object storage, and they run analytics on top of it. But still, it has its limitation, like you cannot make a binary data search or a video audio data kind of search using your lakehouse kind of storage. Then recently, we saw the rise of vector databases, where you can store vector embeddings of unstructured data in your vector database, and you can search similar content. Okay, we'll talk a bit deeper. Yeah, next slide. Yeah, thanks, Anand. So now we are seeing four major data patterns, data storage patterns recently. Okay, one is obviously the purpose-built data storage that we talked about earlier. So separate database to be used for separate use cases. The next one is distributed translytical data storage. Translytical means transaction plus analytical. It supports both OLTP and OLAP, that kind of use cases. The next one is lakehouse data storage. And the last one is graph and vector data storage for RAG kind of implementation. We'll go deeper into all these patterns. So first pattern is purpose-built data storage, like MongoDB, Couchbase, Neo4j, Amazon DynamoDB, Redis, all those databases. So they are used, they have to be used for a particular use cases. They have very specialty support for a particular use case. Like MongoDB, Couchbase, those kind of database, they are document database. They can store JSON and they can support OLTP applications, and they are immensely scalable. Like organizations like Coinbase, Cisco, Toyota, they use MongoDB heavily to optimize their OLTP app performance. Okay. Now, for interconnected graph type of data, right? Hierarchical data, which huge volume. Neo4j, AWS Neptune, Tiger Graph, this kind of databases are very popular. So they are storing their interconnected data and run algorithms to find similar results or matching recommendations, which is related. So that kind of use case are very popular for graph kind of database. Organization like Walmart, eBay, even LinkedIn uses Neo4j to store their connected information to find a similar item match or similar colleague suggestions, all those, right? So they use Neo4j for that. Then there is another type of database called columnar, which is very popular for data warehouses. And when you need huge data and you are mostly updating for those kind of use case, columnar databases are very popular, like Redshift, Snowflake, Cassandra, all those. They are very popular for mainly reporting purpose. And there is another one type of database called key value pairs. Okay, for real-time analytics, caching, these kind of databases are very popular, like Amazon DynamoDB, Redis. They are heavily used in this category. Like Amazon Prime Video, now they have started live streaming also for sport events. So they use Amazon DynamoDB for storing the metadata, not the main streaming content, but for metadata, they use DynamoDB for storing that, and which supports millions of transactions per second. Okay. And there is another special category called multi-model database, which supports more than one kind, like Azure Cosmos DB. It supports storing six different data storage, tabular data, key value, columnar, graph, everything together, right? So that's one pattern, purpose-built database. The next pattern we are seeing is translytical, which is distributed database, which supports both OLTP and OLAP use cases through row store and column store. It has both. For OLTP use case, you can use row store, and for OLAP, you can use column store. And it supports SQL query, and it's immensely scalable. The main advantage is you don't have to do ETL, right? From transactional data, you don't have to bring data for your analytical or AI purpose. It's all there in the same database. So this makes your architecture very simple. Like Apple uses a single store database, which is translytical for optimizing number of their internal applications. Another pattern is, the third pattern is Lakehouse data storage. So Lakehouse, lots of big organizations are building, and it mainly uses object storage, like S3, ADLS, that kind of data storage, which is obviously very cheap. And they create catalogs like Glue catalog or Databricks Unity catalog to run SQL analytical queries. And using Iceberg or Delta tables, or now even S3 tables, it supports even ACID transactions in your data lake. So they are getting cheap storage option, and they are getting all the database feature without using any enterprise features, enterprise database, right? How cool is that? Means they're paying less, but getting all the database features.
Absolutely.
Yeah. And the fourth pattern, which is the latest one, is the usage of graph and vector database for building knowledge graph and RAG implementation. So previously, unstructured data like PDF, scan documents, pictures, video, audio, they are not being used to derive insights because the absence of right storage and processing technology. now we have. So for any unstructured binary data, we can create vector embeddings using LLMs, vector embedding algorithms, and we store them in vector database, and we can find the similarity matching with cosines and all those algorithms like Pinecone, Quadrant. They're very popular in this category, vector database, and graph database like Neo4j, Raspike. They are being used to create knowledge graph. So vector database in combination with knowledge graph, they're heavily used to reduce the hallucinations generated by your GenAI, right? So it matches with your knowledge graph to reduce the hallucination. So this architecture is very popular. So I'll give you one example. Yeah, like Spotify. Spotify is very popular, right? So Spotify became famous with their recommendation algorithm. So it uses VectorDB to improve their recommendation system by efficiently managing and querying their vector embeddings. Okay. So, yeah, so that way, these data storage technologies are evolving a lot to support the AI needs, and to support ingestion of data into this modern data storage. Ingestion patterns are also getting evolved, like distributed ingestion and pre-processing engine like Spark, Databricks. They are also heavily getting adopted. Real-time analytics like using Kafka, Spark Streaming, Kinesis, that kind of technology are getting popular to ingest the data and building real-time insights. Okay. So this new data storage and ingestion technology are helping organizations tremendously to augment their business application with AI and get insight out of their data. Yeah, over to you.
Yes, thank you, Srinath. Yeah, thank you for an insightful discussion on how the storage is getting evolved. I like the idea, like, to have a storage, purpose-built storage, while other are equally important, but purpose-built storage is very much important, because what happens is you need to have now the storage as per your pattern. Similar to storage, now similar to storage, now what we are jumping next is how we are going to process the data. If the storage is a backbone of our data platform, then I would say, data processing, running a pipeline is kind of a blood flowing in our body, correct? It has to flow continuously. It has to flow at a right speed and with all the qualitative thing. That's where I would like to, invite Ramya to talk about how the data processing is getting evolved. What are all the different, emerging, analytical workload through which requires an evolution in data processing technique, and how the modern architectural patterns are addressing those needs. So Ramya, would you like to share your thoughts on this?
Yeah, sure, Anand. Thank you for the opportunity. So probably, before I start off, right, let me just go back and, share some of the interesting statistics, right, that I was just reading through. Okay. So if you see this, right, so I have few things, right, where social medium platforms, right, will generate around 1.8 zettabytes of data annually in the forthcoming years. That's the minimum load that's being expected, right? And also the data generation from the connected devices, right, which is your IoT devices, is going to be like, the number of IoT devices is going to be 35 billion. Okay, so this is the minimum number, okay, from where, we are actually looking at data coming from, and the volumes that we are looking at, right? Okay, so I think, before I start off, right, what I would like to reiterate is, I think a lot of us already spoke about, how AI is very important, how there is actually a massive shift, where we are talking only about generative AI, right? We have moved from analytics to Gen AI now, right? So before we do that, we need to talk about, what is key for Gen AI to function. Okay. I know we have a lot of things that we need to correlate with, and we need to start the story, right? It's not like, the car has to run smoothly, but the engine of the car should be fine. Okay, so what is the engine for the car, right? So you have the data that is coming through and all that. How are you going to process the data, right? So let us start off with some of the key challenges that we are actually facing with the data, right? We used to talk about, right, in the typical big data fashion, we used to talk about 3 V's of data. Then it became 4 V, and now we are talking about 5 V, right? The 5th V is the value of data. What is the value that the data is supposed to generate, right? So that is one of the key things that we need to look at, apart from, the volume, velocity, variety. Okay, and we also have a veracity, right? What is the data quality from the various types of data we get? And we ingest data from any source now. Okay, any streaming data, social media platforms, it comes from any platform. It is actually in any shape or any form. So how do we ensure that, the data is actually taken care, so that, when we try to arrive at an insight, or when we try to build, outcome out of it, right? How valuable or how trustable this data is, right? So that is one thing. And next one is the cloud bottlenecks and challenges, right? The reason why I talk about cloud bottleneck and challenge, it's not a typical analytic workload anymore, right? So we are talking about LLM models. Okay, so LLM models are quite huge. Okay, and when you are going to process huge volumes of data, when you are actually going to create your RAG architecture, right, where you are going to sort of conceptualize your response, right? You are going to actually give a triggered response. So you need to really think about how your compute should be. It has to be elastic. It has to be scalable. We are talking about the right level of chips that are being used for processing, right? So the cloud vendors are thinking in that direction. Okay, and all the LLM models that are built, right, it is now a race, right? So we started off with ChatGPT, we had, then we went to Copilot, and now we have actually, DeepSeek, right, which is, sort of revolutionizing the overall Gen AI thing. Okay, and the third one is security and privacy concerns, right? Okay, so I'm getting data from various sources. Okay, I need to ensure the data that I get from these sources need to be processed in a secure fashion. Every enterprise will have their own norms, will have their own governance patterns, what is allowed, what is not allowed. So I need to ensure to these things, right? So these things are definitely needed when I even look about, the complexity of processing data for any analytic workloads or, Gen AI workloads. Okay, so Anand, if you can just move to the next slide. Okay, so finally, right, how do I solve this problem? Typically, all this, goes back to a modern data architecture, right? So modern data architecture is a very vast term. Okay, so how do I start with the modern data architecture? I know it breaks down, the data silos. It actually takes care of data trust, security, compliance, scalability, flexibility, right? But what are the base foundations of these architectures, right? Let us start from foundation probably, and from there we can build at, the various patterns that needs to be supported. So the common data architecture patterns, right, which I am going to touch upon in this presentation is basically, your data mesh and data fabric. Okay. So why do you need a data mesh, right? So for example, a typical financial organization, right, where I have, the domains are scattered across, right? For example, I will have, customer transactions, I will have loan, I will have investments. Okay. And I want the business units would want to own their own data. They want to look at their data as products, and they want to actually, take care of the governance and standards for the data. Okay. So in a scenario like that, right, a mesh architecture would be a very ideal scenario. Okay. I'm not saying mesh is the only option, but I'm just saying they start off with the mesh architecture and they try to, derive value from these various domains and products that they want to actually get through. And next we have, the second beast, right, which is your data fabric. Okay, so how does data fabric work? So I have an enterprise where, they want to have an integrated pattern, okay, for the data processing, right? They want to have separate, they want to have standard frameworks for, security compliance. They want standard frameworks for data ingestion, right? So they actually create these frameworks, they automate it, and they actually enable it across the enterprise. Okay, so that is where, a data fabric comes into picture. Sometimes it so happens, right, in some of these enterprises where they want to do a mix and match, right? They don't want to stick to one pattern. So they create, data mesh, and they try to, integrate the data from the various mesh and, create a pattern out of it, right? So it is actually a architecture where, data mesh and data fabric complements each other. Okay, so having said all this, right, I've just covered, key things about the architecture patterns. So how is that it is going to help, right? So basically now we are looking at, we started off with analytic workloads, then we actually, went with ML workloads, okay? And now we are talking about, the GenAI workloads, right? So we are talking about RAG architecture, and now we have this, buzzword, which is agentic AI, right? Where, these agents become very autonomous in, making decisions. How do we build these architectures? So we need to have a base foundation of one of these architectures, try to design our RAG architecture so that we actually, contextualize the output that we get from these LLMs, right? So that is how a RAG architecture evolves. So we talk about, ChatGPT or Copilot. Internally, if we try and understand, how these LLMs work, right, we will be able to better appreciate the architecture and the processing that is actually involved. So to summarize, right, what I would say is, right, I know we started off with, the normal data processing. We went into analytics. Now we are going into GenAI, right? But the basis of modern data foundation, the challenges that we face with modern data foundation is key for us to understand so that we arrive at a right processing framework, right? And I know there are a lot of tools available in the market, which is going to enable us and help us to do the processing, okay? But for us to even choose the right processing that is needed, I need to understand, what this architecture is, what this framework is to move forward. Thank you, Anand.
Thank you, Ramya. It was very insightful discussion. So what I concur your thought is what you are recommending is need to have an architecture which stores the data in a distributed, decentralized fashion, but provide an access in a uniform way to the business so that the insight can be built out of it. That's where, let me move into the next part of the discussion. I will invite Indrajit to share his thought on how the, data-led decision making is enabling, culture around it. I understand, Indrajit, we are already late to give you an control, but yeah, please share your thoughts around, insight delivery part of it.
Thanks, Anand. Hello, everyone. So that's a very interesting question, Anand. And I think GenAI is a very important enabler for adopting data-led decision making. It has disrupted the AI landscape for real. And we see that organizations are finding very creative ways to unlock the true potential of the data through GenAI, which was previously not possible. Now let's take it by examples. Let's take the example of data accessibility. Say we have this organization which has invested on a dashboarding tool because they want data to lead their business decisions. Now, over a period of time, they accumulate a corpus of reports and dashboards which builds up so huge that nobody knows which report to run for us answering which business question. So I mean, that hardly helps, right? So you would be surprised to know that they are not alone. I mean, this is a very common scenario which organizations face today. Now, one common solution for this might be AI BI tools like Databricks Genie, which can help them to get answers to their questions through human language like queries. Now, that is a very big game changer, which has come in. But what if their data is very scattered and it's not cataloged very well? What do they do then? So this is where I found a very interesting industry use case wherein the organization used the metadata of these reports and they ingested that into a vector database and built a GenAI chatbot on top of it. It not only helped them to identify the right report or the dashboard for the right business question, but also it helped them to get the direct answers even. So we see that GenAI is helping to break data silos. Now, suppose I know which dashboard to run. I know this dashboard has the answer to my business question, but I still need to run that dashboard. I see the dashboard, analyze it, and spend time on it, right? But not anymore. I mean, tools like Tableau GPT. Tableau GPT will help deliver insights to you ready-made. It will do trend analysis. It will find interesting patterns in the trends, and it will deliver you the insights ready-made. Previously, we used to hear a lot of feedback like, I have my dashboards, but I don't know what to do with them. But that is a thing of the past now. So we see that GenAI is not only helping the users to get answers to their questions, it's also helping them to get answers for the questions they don't know to ask. And these answers, in turn, are giving rise to more intriguing questions, which perpetuates to a cycle. And in the end, we see heavy usage of data in the strategic decision making. We are also seeing GenAI delivering value to the outside consumers. I mean, customers are using GenAI to enrich their data, and that is helping them to deliver value to their customers. Let's take the example of food delivery industry. Until recently, we used to search search by food items, search by restaurants. But today, the users, the landscape has changed. The users' demands have changed. They like to search I'm diabetic, please order breakfast for me. Or say I had surgery last month, what should I order for lunch? Now, how are the Zomatos and the Spotifys of the world? Zomatos and Swiggies of the world are making this possible? The answer lies in data enrichment. So what they're doing is they're using their catalog and they're using GenAI to understand the ingredients of the catalog and further go one level down to understand the health implications of those ingredients. That's how they are making it possible. This is a recurring use case. Let's take another example, say a recommendation engine. Srinath spoke about Spotify. Now, Spotify, when it came to the business, music streaming business, it had a lot of competitors. How was it able to outshine the others? It's through their recommendation engine. And what makes the recommendation engine very special is they go beyond the music track analysis, like analyzing the beats or the danceability. They go to the lyrics of a song. They go to the blogs written about a song. They try to understand the cultural context behind it. And that's how, say somebody is hearing a lot of breakup songs lately. Rest assured, Spotify's recommendation engine is going to recommend a song which is going to suit the mood of the user, and it is able to connect emotionally to the end consumers. So that was about GenAI. Now we are also seeing rise of the data storytelling tools like Tukan2Ko, Juicebox Analytics, or Sisense. They are helping the users build narratives, stronger narratives using data. They are challenging the users to go beyond dashboards. They are helping the users embed data not only in their dashboards, but everywhere, anywhere. Sales portals or websites, anywhere. You can embed your data results using these tools. Also, they are going beyond. Previously it used to be what? Data stories. The data is, the narratives and the visuals are sandwiched between the data, like trend analysis, root cause analysis. Now they are helping us to build story with data, where the narratives are dotted with data. So that is a new trend which we are seeing. Also, we see that the organizations are becoming more conscious about data ethics. They are becoming conscious about bias. They are realizing that data can be manipulated to say things we want to hear about it. And mostly this bias is at a subconscious level. And they are trying to say that, they're consciously trying to let the data lead the story, rather than selecting the data to support a foregone conclusion or a preferred storyline. So these are the new trends which we see nowadays. We see the organizations are increasingly becoming data-driven, data-aware, and they are discovering innovative methods to unlock the true potential of the data, both for internal customers as well as outside consumers.
Thank you, Indrajit. It was very wonderful discussion. Dennis, RNP sir, I think we are running out of time, but I still would like to invite Raja, Alagu Raja, to share the gist of whatever we have discussed in last 1.5 hour about about the emerging data stack, basically. So Raja is a well-known industry leader, having a deep expertise on data and analytics and architectural excellence. So Raja, could you please share your views? What is your a summary about emerging data stack? Of course, add your flavor of experience to it. Yeah, Raja, over to you.
Hey, very thanks, honored to have you, Raja. Really welcome, and we really look for a summary from you. It will be very helpful. Thank you.
It's a pleasure, RNP sir and Anand. Thanks for inviting me to do this summary. I know we are 8 minutes away from the clock. I don't want to be the bone in the chicken that I'm sorry, today Shivratri, it should not be born in the chicken. I don't want to be that. So let me keep it brief and simple. Right, the last 1 hour, guys and girls, have been a good overload of information. Correct. We had discussed about three aspects. Right, it is really boiling down to three aspects. What is the data that we have? What we do to the data, and what data does to the business. So if I put it in this perspective, data was always around us. Did we capture it? Hardly. 3 to 7% is what the survey tells me that enterprises capture the data. Why they were not able to capture data? Simply because we didn't understand the immense value that the data could bring. Though history repeats itself, we have seen that in our own history. A long historical country like India has seen history repeating themselves, fashion repeating itself, music repeating itself. So data is vital, but we didn't have a mechanism to store, process, envisage a value out of it. Thank God we are living the world, the century, where we have immense computational power, a good storage aspect, and a very long drawn business aspiration to use data as a commodity. Data as an asset is a different story, but data as a commodity, can you buy data off the rack? I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about, can you use the data off the rack? I used to wonder, right, as a person, whenever I go and look for something in a departmental store, it is always to be found in the last rack. However, I see this whole lot of soda cans, noodle packets, chocolates, biscuits, all placed very reachable. I used to wonder why, and there should be some data, some stat behind it, right? And that stat was basically some human intention saying that if I advertise the brand very prominent, there will be a lot of people who will buy it. However, there came a technology aspect to it. You might want to read about it. The field is called as neuromarketing, which uses the computational power and the data of positioning to a subsequent sleep nudging. Yeah, Christopher Nolan movies, right? How do you remember where the item is during a sleep and you're able to go and purchase it virtually, physically? So that's what modern data ecosystem could do. It can deliver an impact. It could create a mindset for a human intelligence to ascertain, abbreviate, and capitalize on the information and data. No one of you would even remember $P, $G prompt days of writing a Windows boot, because the information is now available in a click of a button. If that is the data that I'm talking about, interrupts, the queries, the interp compilers that change the programming language into compiler interpreter, now everyone is using modern language. Why not use the same with respect to data and acceptance? So that's the delivering the impact. If you can change a mechanism in the way things are happening today and thereby create a positive time frame for your fellow employees, that's the impact that we deliver using modern data assistation. So all you have to understand is you would get more time with Zomato bringing you food. You don't have to go and wait in a queue and buy something. With Zomato recommending this is the food that is widely available, you go with the crowd and you are having satisfied with your taste buds, so you don't waste time in thinking. You use that time to think towards modern data ecosystem, right? So that's all it is all about. Try to capitalize on the intelligence that we can deliver impact, and the value realization is quite high. You save $100 to $120 in every Zomato order because you've become a constant subscriber. That's another story. We all eat biryani, and biryani has become the world's favorite food of all of a sudden, because that could be prepared in cloud kitchens and you have an SOP to prepare it much better and maintain the same taste, right? So that's the value addition. However, you are away from all the frauds that were there, saying I'm the same biryani shop, which you see in Chennai, which you see in Bangalore, which is here. So the name changes everything. So long story short, think modernization as what you could drive as an impact to the business, which will help them to realize the value that is immensely below it, and try adding another human life, a day in human life, which will help the nation go forward. Thank you very much for this opportunity, Anand and RNP. Hope I summarized it to what extent it is. I didn't want to overboard it with all the technology stuff.
It was wonderful, Raja. Wonderful.
Absolutely
It was
amazing.
really
You are
amazing
always
summary. I think Zomato experience, we have to practically think about it, Raja, now. But it was very good. Thank you very much. Maybe without wasting time, I give it control to RNP sir and Dennis. Thank you all the participation. Maybe if there are any questions we want to address. Dennis, RNP sir, over to you.
Yeah. Thank you. Thanks. On behalf of StackRoot, I'm very privileged to thank each one of you and the participants. I know that everybody prepared for this event, and it was a very nice orchestration, Anand, from your team, and really appreciate all the efforts. And thanks to the StackRoot team, Denise, Kavya, who have constantly helped us with all the required, communication infrastructure, helping us with all the preparation that was required for this. And of course, Dr. Priya, who is, I always call her as the bead in a nice necklace, the thread in the nice necklace. She's always there for every project, and make sure that everything is clearly orchestrated and organized. Thank you very much, and really appreciate Raja for taking your time. I know that you are always at the cutting edge solution finding for various clients across the globe. Really appreciate your presence.
Thank you
very much. So I don't see any questions, so we'll close, I guess, with this. And
Thank you.
Dennis, there are no questions, right? The chat box or anything.
We are almost top of the hour, but if anyone has, they can raise a hand and we can
feel free to ask.
Feel free to ask, yeah. But otherwise, I take this opportunity to thank you, StackRoot, as well, to give us an opportunity, to our team to share their views, their thoughts on how industry is leading towards, modernization. I see everyone raise hand. Vishal, please continue.
Hello everyone, and thank you for all the panelists for organizing this event. So my question is about we discussed about data-driven culture, and we talked about various tools and AI technologies which deals with this data. So in this case, we also saw one example of PV Sindhu and her preferences of data and what are the types she likes it. So there is a thin line between the user preferences and the privacy of the users. So when we talked about advanced technology like AI and advanced data dealing tools of AI, how we are going to ensure the user preferences and its privacy?
Maybe Abhishek, would you like to take a question? This question?
Yep. Okay, so basically, Vishal, if you look at it, right, see when you, and I would talk it purely from a consumption side of the data, right, you will always be posted with a conflicting, challenging requirements, right? When you, and I'm talking about one of my real life experience, right? You would, when you talk about, somebody would say from a business, I need this data at any cost, this is what I require. A compliance would say, no, you can't do this. You need to do all these things. And that's where, like, if you look at it, right, what I have talked about is a kind of a trade-off that you have to do it, right? I took it in the parlance of an architecture trade-off, more from an adoption perspective, right? But that's where, like, this conflicting priorities needs to be tackled around, right? Now, what takes precedence, right? As RNP sir has talked about, at times, not meeting a compliancy could ruin the organization's status itself, right, in the market. Like how, so that is the place where you have to look at it, right? And everywhere, right? If I talk about what we are looking into it, right, all of your personal data are regulated data, right? So it is absolutely no brainer. It has to be regulated in a terms of, like, and it also goes with the consent, right? You talk about anywhere across the world, right? You have different regulations in place, and that's where, like, now when we are talking about an AI usage of a data, right? There's a new thing that is coming is the responsible AI, Okay, it's not that data is there, that data can be a boon, but that it can also cause a lot of damage to a company's reputation, right? So it's always a trade-off, and then you would be definitely encountered with this conflicting priorities, right? What I can do to maximize my business growth vis-a-vis what are my boundaries within which I need to operate.
Absolutely.
Hope I'm able
Thanks.
to address your query,
Yeah.
Vishal.
Yeah, Abhishek, thanks. And there is another question connected to this context. As we saw that there is a very few players in the market who are dealing with or dominating the AI technologies like NVIDIA, who have what we can say enhanced computation, who deals with the enormous level of data. So in this case, there is again question raised from many sides, like how we are going to ensure this security when there is only one player in the market who deals with all the data of the users.
So if Vishal, if I understand your question correctly, it's more about data security when there are multiple players in and around, be it on the AI model perspective or infrastructure perspective. How do we ensure security, correct? Or it's more about AI only?
Yeah, that is correct.
Yeah.
And it is more about data localization and suppose there is a data which is specific to India region, and Indian policies or government don't want to transfer their users data outside of country. So in this case, since the player who NVIDIA who's dealing with this AI initiative in India, and they don't want to listen to this policy of Indian government, and they want to transfer the data of Indian users to US. So in this case, how we are dealing with these challenges?
So I would say, Vishal, if I take up a question more from the technology perspective, and maybe I'll invite Abhishek to talk from the business architectural perspective. So let us say, the localization is the need of the hour. India now putting a regulation saying that India data need to be stored in India only. It's more on the storage. Again, localization rule, if you look at, the India and, APEC as a continental European region, GDPR is there, or if you look at the US, CCPA is there. All this, what it says is everywhere it's a different rule. So that's where when we do it, what we are recommending from the architectural pattern is to store the data in a distributed fashion. Okay, you do not need to store data in a one centralized location nowadays. It's not only about having a data ownership as an one objective. The other objective is complying to the localization rule. Let us say if I'm working for in 5 different countries, my data, my use case having a 5 different countries, then I should be having a platform which should be storing data in a that localized whatever you say a data lake, a lakehouse culture, or just a localized platform of a data store. When it comes to the compute part of it, so now I'm decoupling compute within storage. So when it comes to the compute part of it, we have a lot of relaxation over there. Most of these rules are localization is more on the storage part of it. Compute, they are very much relaxed on that, so we can do the compute centralized. So what we recommend is store the data in a distributed fashion, in a decentralized way. But when you are consuming the data, you build a layer which gives an unified view. It could be a combining data across the distributed platform, or having just a virtual layer on top of it. So that's more on the technology perspective. Maybe Abhishek, more from the business perspective, do you see how this compliancy rule is playing a role on the security aspect?
Yeah. So again, I think I'll take it from a different way, right? Like, what is the level of a compliance that we are talking about? Okay. Now I think Vishal, you make it a very, I would say, a broad statement that if there is if the data of, let's say, India should not go out of an India, right? Could be like there are cases like that. Okay, the European Union would have like the data should not be stored outside the Europe, right? But you have to dissect this into a level of compliance that we are looking in terms of it and how we can manage the security, right? And there are ways and methods to mitigate it, right? And what I would say another approach that we are doing it for one of our clients, right? That approach that we are really talking about is to undertake a value realization framework. Now, what it does that, right? It's a very simplistic way to look at it. If I have a use case to onboard a data, let's say if I'm talking about a use case to onboard a data, what's the value that is going to come out of it? Okay. Now, these are I would need to break it down. What are the input I require and what is an output I'm going to do it. I need to tie up to that output, the value, to a quantifiable business objective. And what are the, I would say, the input parameters that I have to subscribe to it. Now let's take a case of like where there could be a very big business case where I have to do this. I could get XYZ benefit out of it, right? But my constraints are such that the value that is out there is not tangible. I cannot realize it, right? Now, some of these use cases would be shot down there itself, right? I will never ever go, right? Irrespective. So if I have a constraint, I cannot move the data outside, be it. Then there are cases where organizations work within that constraint. But then, as I mentioned, right, from a compliancy perspective, you have a ways to mitigate, right? You have an anonymization, right? You can anonymize the data, do it, move the certain data outside so that it is being compliant. You can encrypt the data. You can do it in a various different modes, right? So you might have to look at it from a perspective of what level of a compliancy that is out there, and then take a decision accordingly and run through that value realization framework, right? If the investment what I'm doing, does that warrant or does that deliver the value that I'm aiming for?
Thank you, Abhishek. I hope, Vishal, this addresses your question.
Thank you,
in a
Abhishek.
twofold. Yeah.
Thanks,
Thank you,
Anand.
Vishal. That was a very interesting. Both the questions were very interesting question. Thank you for asking that question. Over to you, RNP, sir.
Yeah, thank you. And we would like to close at this point of time. Thanks everyone, and really amazing participation and enthusiasm was really commendable. So we look forward for more participation in the coming StackRoot webinars. Thank you very much. Bye-bye. Bye for now.
Thank you, everyone. Bye-bye. Have a great day.
Thanks.
Bye.
Bye.
Thank you.
everyone for
Thank you.
joining.